Hi. So I hope that you have converted couple of codes into functions and have thoroughly gone through these sessions so far and are gaining confidence in functions, and your confidence will only increase as we move along. Now continuing further, we will write functions for a couple of more questions. So I just want to do a simple thing. Given two numbers, I want to divide them and then return their result. So if you have to create a function for this, I would want you to write down the signature, and in fact this is going to be a small function, so write down the entire function. So pause the session and write it down. Okay, so now if we have to do it, public static is what we will be writing, right? And int is the result that I want to return, integral result for now, and divide numbers is the function that I'll create. Int numerator and int denominator, these are the two values that I want to divide. Now the task is pretty much similar, only thing that you have to do is return numerator by denominator. Right, so this sounds pretty simple. Now let's see how we're going to call them. For now, the numbers that we have to divide, I am fixing them, and then we can have result and call this function divide numbers and pass the numerator and denominator. Eventually print the result. So now let me run it. Right, so the answer is 2. Pretty cool. Now let's think about a boundary case. So boundary case is where do you think this code can possibly fail. For example, let me put a denominator as 0. What if 0 is a denominator? So now you are performing 8 by 0, and let's run it. So 0 as a denominator is giving you an error, and it says that it's an arithmetic exception. So we will talk about exceptions later, but for now you can think that it is an error, and the error says that you are trying to divide by 0, which is not correct. So we obviously should handle it, we should take care of it, right? So by taking care of it, I mean, let's do one thing. Let's divide these numbers only when we are sure that denominator is not 0. So that actually means if denominator is 0, we don't have to divide the number. So that means we have to exit. Now to exit a function, you can use a keyword that is return. We have already seen of return as a keyword to exit the function, right? So you can exit it using return. Now return, and you have to return some value because the function is expecting an integer, so you cannot get away with that. You will have to return some integer, but we have not divided. How can we return an integer? So for now, let's do one thing. Let's return integer dot min value, smallest possible value, just to indicate that this division is not feasible. So if denominator is equal to 0, we will return the integer. That's it. If it is not, we will come down and we'll divide and then return. Right, now let's run it. And if you see, if I am passing 0, it is giving me the min value. So the code will work, and I have taken care of it. Okay, so couple of things that I want to highlight again that we should specifically notice about this. So if you see, return as a keyword is a strong keyword. Return will exit you from the function, right? So it will exit the function, and that's it. So as soon as you encounter return, nothing else after that return is actually going to run. So had there been a statement here, maybe something like this, inside division function, right? So had there been a statement like this, this statement will not be printed in case of this return. But if I change numerator to 4, denominator to 4, sorry, and then I run it, then I am getting this function, this statement, right? So return is a strong keyword. Return will say that exit the function, and once you exit, nothing after that, no line of code after that in that particular function is going to be executed. Right? We have seen return earlier as well in context to main. If you have to exit from main, we used return. There we used only return, and that's it. Here in case of this function, you have to return some value, and you cannot write only return because this is returning an integer value. So just ensure that you return an integer value, and this is what return is doing for us. So I hope this makes sense to you. Now next thing that I want to do is write down a similar function. This time I'll only print the result and not return it. So I'll write only I should say I'll repeat the same code and this time just print it. So public static, because I want to print it, I will not return it, so return type will be void. You will have to explicitly write void here, you cannot skip this void, and print division result is what I'll call it, let's say. So this is what we want to do with this function. So numerator and denominator, these are the two numbers that we have and we want to divide them. Right? So that means effectively what you have to do is you have to print this result. Now same can be possible error scenario here as well. What if someone has passed numerator or denominator as 0? So then you will end up doing divide by 0, and that's not the right thing to do. So that means you should take care of that case here as well. So if denominator is equal to 0, I am not going to print anything. So if you don't want to print anything, that means you have to exit the function, right? So if you have to exit, you will write return here and just a return and no value, because this is a void function. Earlier we were writing this statement. So if I try writing the same statement here, I'll get an error, because this says that this is a void function and you cannot return an integer value. So in case of void functions, you just have to write return, no value, nothing, that's it. In case of normal function returning some value, you have to return that value explicitly. So I just cut it. That wasn't correct, right? So this is something that you have to do. Just ensure that you do take care of that. So I ended up missing the semicolon, so that's it. Now how can you call that function? Let me just comment it and call the print function. So print division result, and you pass numerator and denominator. If you are passing a result which is with non-zero denominator, it will give you the answer. If you are passing the input values with 0, then it will not give you anything. And this is what you can obviously deal with. Or you can here specify maybe print a statement, division by 0 is not allowed. Maybe you can actually end up printing a message like this as well if you want to. Okay, so before exiting, if you want, you can print a message like this, that division by 0 is not allowed. Again, the flow is, if this statement turns out to be true, so if this statement turns out to be true, you will get along here, you will print the statement and return. That's it. So after return, you will exit the function, and no other statement after this return is going to be executed. So nothing else will work. So I hope a return as a difference is clear to you, right? In case of using it with a value, with a void function, or using it with a non-void function. Another thing that I actually want to highlight over here is, so we have two replicas of same function, right? One is printing a result, one is returning a value. Now, which one do you think should be used in which use case? So generally the way it happens is, suppose if you want to collect the result and use it further, then return will make more sense, because printing will only print it on console and you don't want to see it on console, you want to use it. For example, whatever result I have here, maybe I want to check, let me go back to the same function, and I want to check if this result is greater than 0 or less than 0 and do some logic accordingly. I just want to use it somewhere, right? So if I want to do it, I'll be able to do it only if the function is returning me some value, right? So that means return version, using the return version will make more sense here, and you cannot just use a void version, because void version generally is used to perform the task and that's it. It will not give you back the result, right? So I don't want that I should see it on screen and that's it. I want it with me so that I can use that result further in my code. So if I want to do that, this is something which will make more sense, and whatever logic I have going forward, I can use that. Just to highlight, if you have a void function, don't try to collect its result. If you will try, it will throw an error, because print was a void function, so you cannot collect its result, and which is the drawback, you cannot collect the result and use it further. So this was it for this session. I hope the difference when to use return, when to use void, and what return to use when, I think these things around that are clear to you. Thank you.